As the Nut and Fancy project, so to speak, gets bigger, I get more and more PMs, i.e., personal messages, emails, whatever you want to refer to them as, every day. And I'm probably not going to be able to keep up with them all. There's just so many. And a lot of them, of course, deal with gear advice, knife advice, guns, tactical gear, and that's cool. The best way I think I can address all of this is to make very specific videos on the certain items. That way, maybe I can reference them, or better yet, maybe the individual can reference them and find the information they're looking for. When I first started reviewing, I was combining several knives into one review, and that's not the ideal method because my philosophy currently is to have very specific playlists on very specific type of gear, whether it be a knife, a gun, later on, other gear. You'll see those playlists populate on my channel page. And the best way to find the information you're looking for is to peruse the playlist, see if it falls into the category you're interested in, and find it. That's why I'm going to do another review, a separate review on the Delica knife by Spyderco, one of my favorite EDC blades. Now, I did do a previous video on the Delica. It was referenced with another knife, and I'll probably just leave that up. But if you're just interested in the Delica knife, this will be your review video. And the advantage of that is it's more time efficient for you, the viewer, to find the information you're looking for quicker, as opposed to maybe waiting through a video of another knife you may not be interested in. So let's get going. There's a lot to talk about, as usual, both philosophy and specific features of these outstanding knives. On the top is a Delica 3. On the bottom, a Delica 4. Why do I say they're my favorite? Well, one of my favorite EDC blades. I've got lots, I know it. Well, first off, the size and the weight are amazing for the Delica series. This is the I shouldn't say original, the third generation, the Delica 3, and it weighs 2 ounces. That's very svelte, i.e. real lightweight. The Delica 4 added steel liners, I'll talk about that in a sec, and that weighs 2.6 ounces. Now you say, well, it's only 0.6 ounces, who cares about that? And most users honestly probably do not, and I can understand that. But when I'm talking about an EDC blade, I like it to be invisible to me when I carry it. What do I mean by invisible? In other words, it's so lightweight that I forget I have it on my person. That's preferred, really, and I dig that. With the Delica 3, that's much more possible. Now, on my original review or my mentioning of the Delica, I did not have my Delica 3 because it was in my military uniform. And as you can see, it has a fair amount of wear on it due to that. It's pretty much always there, along with some other blades that I use, kind of like the Mini Reflex 2550. That's an outstanding blade too. But the Delica 3 is lighter weight than the bottom one, the Delica 4, by 0.6 ounces. And again, EDC blades, I like them light. They're just easy to carry, they're easy to transport, you just forget you have them on you. That's what I mean by invisible. And the Delica 4 is still a great knife, I love that too. But let's concentrate on the Delica 3 just for a sec here though. This is a VG10 steel knife. I'm a big fan of VG10 steel. I find that it holds an edge relatively well, and it takes a really nice sharp edge as well, and it's rust resistant, more so than AUS-8 in my experience. So, good steel. The blade shape is classic Spyderco, very functional for EDC uses, definitely. And notice this, I'm going to go ahead and bring the Delica 4 in here. Notice they changed the grind just a little bit between the Delica 3 and the Delica 4. I like the Delica 3's better. See how it goes higher up on the blade? I'm not sure why they did that. The reason I like that better is because I like approaching my relief edge as shallow as possible. What do I mean by that? In other words, I don't want to have my grind start low down on the blade. I like it to be as high as possible on the blade before I make a run for the relief edge. I just like that. I think it cuts better, it makes it a better slicing knife, and it makes it easier for me to sharpen. That's one reason I'll criticize other blades that start real low. And the Tom Brown Tracker knife is one of those knives. That's one of the many criticisms I had against that blade. So the Delica 3, I prefer how the grind started higher up on the blade, and it's a hollow grind, by the way. You can always detect that by doing the thumb sweep in one direction, of course. So that's a minor difference, but I dig the Delica 3's higher grind. The one thing I don't dig about the Delica 3, the original or the previous version, is it doesn't have jimping right here on the thumb ramp. I like the thumb ramp, like I've said on many of my review videos. I just dig it. It just makes it nice. Some people don't like the Spyderco design, and that just baffles me. I don't understand it. It's a fast deploying blade, very ergonomic and very functional in pretty much any way you'd want it to be. But back to the thumb ramp, it is not jimped. The Delica 4 is jimped. Now, but that's not the that's not a showstopper with me, and here's why. I'm going to bring in a Spyderco Dragonfly into the mix. I'm going to show you how I solved the issue. This is a Spyderco Dragonfly. I have a separate review on that knife. It's a very small EDC blade, maybe too small for some tasks, but like the Delica 3, it came with a smooth thumb ramp, and this is how I corrected it. That is a very small sliver of traction tape, like skateboard variety, on the thumb ramp. And what that does is really lock my thumb into the Spyderco Dragonfly. I'm going to do the same thing with the Spyderco 3. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. That cost me all of about 1 cent to do too. Alcohol it really good. Cut it out very precisely because you don't want it overhanging the side of the blade there. And you can see how that worked. Really nice. I like that. That really helped transform the Dragonfly for me, and it will do the same for the Spyderco 3. By the way, there's your size differences. You can see how small that Dragonfly is because the Delica 3 is actually a pretty small knife. It's not huge. Dragonfly smaller still. How's the deployment on both these knives? They're about the same. It's just fast. They come out nice and fast. They are a pinned pivot screw, so it's non-adjustable. But unlike some other designs, kind of like the Benchmade Pikachu, I call it, it's right. They got it right. It's not too tight, and all the Spydercos are that way. The pin varieties, here's the Delica 4. It comes out just as fast, locks up nice and tight. No wiggle, side to side, up and down. Same with the Delica 3. Just a tight blade, and this one's had a lot of use. The Delica 4 a little bit less use, but yeah, I have used it in the EDC roll. So very nice deployment on those. And I'm going to just kind of interchange both of them now since they're very similar. The Delica 3, the one reason it's lighter weight than the Delica 4 is because it doesn't have nested steel liners. It's a pure Zytel handle. FRN, Zytel, it's the same thing. And that just makes it lightweight. And like I've said in the other videos, why do you have to put steel liners in an EDC knife? Here we see the Delica 4, and yes, they have steel liners nested in that FRN handle. And Spyderco, as usual, does a good job of skeletonizing them as best they can. They are drilled out, but it adds almost an ounce to the weight. Does it add that much more strength to the Delica 4? Maybe. I don't know. This is not a knife, nor this size knife is not something that's going to be subjected to all kinds of stresses. I think Spyderco did it mainly for marketing, so they could say and brag about how it's steel reinforced, this Delica 4. And I don't like things that just do it for marketing. If it doesn't add an advantage to the design, I'm totally not interested in it. As far as modifying an otherwise perfect design, the Delica 3. The only thing they could have done to improve the Delica 3 is to put that jimping on there. Other than that, they should have just left it alone. Had a perfect pocket clip. You know, I love that deep clip. This one's not bad either. I still like the Delica 4's pocket clip. I think Spyderco does a very good job on all of them. You know, it's reversible side to side on the Delica 3, same as the Delica 4. You do get the advantage of being able to go to all four corners with your pocket clip on the Delica 4, which is an advantage to some users. I like that. They also changed the handle design. Look at the difference in handle design. How it was blockier in the end, now it's pointed. I don't really have a preference one over the other in that regard. They're both fine by me. They have their volcano grip, they call it. That's the texturing, the aggressive texturing that the Spydercos have. That, of course, is a Delica 4 I'm showing you. I don't mind it. I think it's fine. aesthetic only jimping on the FRN handle, and the Delica 3 has none. But like I said, if it's aesthetic only, who cares? You know, I guess you get a little bit of traction up here, but not too much. And the Delica 3 over here is smooth. Now, I could actually, and I just might do this, I showed you guys that traction tape on the Dragonfly right there. What I'll probably do is run that traction tape very thin, precisely cut right down the spine of that Delica 3, and then I'm going to have a really nice purchase on that knife the whole time. This is an experiment by me, but nothing fancy, but I think it's going to work really nicely. I've been using this for a month like this, and it hasn't moved. It's stuck on really nice. Again, getting a grease-free attachment there with an alcohol pad is pretty important. That's the handles. Now, can you take these knives apart, these Delicas? Nope, they're pinned. And that, you know, I don't have real issues with that, except, I'm sorry, the Delica 4 is not pinned. The Delica 3 was pinned. And what I was going to say is I do not have issues with the Delica 3 being constructed as such because it doesn't have steel liners in it. It's FRN, 100%. Now, if you have steel liners in a knife, then you pretty much need to be able to take it apart. Because if you dunk it in salt water, and I don't care what kind of stainless steel you have, it's going to rust. Therefore, the Delica 4, they wisely allowed you, or they allow you to take it apart because they have some Torx screws on one side. So you can take the Delica 4 apart. Good thing, because you might have to get that salt water out from behind your nested steel liners, stainless steel liners. So, decent. Now, again, I love the Delica 4 still. That's why I own one. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't own it. I'd get rid of it, sell it, whatever. There's lots of ways to get rid of it. But I still love it. 2.6 ounces is still a very reasonable carry weight for a EDC knife. It's awesome. I don't have real issues with it. But I'm going to be critical of the weight because I prefer lighter. And the Delica 3, in my opinion, was a better knife. In fact, if I find a Delica 3 anywhere around, new condition, I don't want used, new condition or light new, I'll buy it just for my collection and because I dig it so much. Then you see the lockbacks. These are lockbacks, of course. They're not liner locks. And a lot of guys like that lockback. They think it's a stronger design. And I agree with that generally. David Bow detent back there, totally worthless feature. You don't need that. And it's supposedly to prevent you, grasping so hard that you'll close the blade. It's total marketing hype. Garbage. But it doesn't ruin an excellent design. I don't care if they put it on or if they don't put it on. Actually, I kind of like it because it takes away a little bit of the metal. So it makes it just a little bit lighter. Not too bad. So Delica 4, Delica 3, really some of my top choices for EDC. They are a little bit on the pricey side for an FRN stainless steel handle, but you are getting a very good stainless steel VG10. By the way, I do like that Spyderco logo on there. That's pretty cool. Very nice. And they are Japanese made. Same as the Delica 3. That one was made in Sakai City as well, Japan. Very cool. So fast deploying. They lock up solidly. They're almost perfectly sized for EDC use, these Delicas. They are just perfect in just about every way. I can't imagine anyone using a Delica and not liking it for EDC. But there's guys out there, I know there's different strokes for different folks, and I understand that. But for me, I totally dig them. Only thing they could do better is to get rid of those darn steel liners, go back to the Delica 3 model. But that won't happen. And they could probably make them cheaper. That's Nothing Fancy's review of the outstanding Delica series knives. Now you're going to get the Delica 4. Good luck if you want to find a Delica 3. I think they're pretty much gone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the good ratings, subscribing. It keeps me going. And there's your very specific review on an outstanding EDC blade. Nothing Fancy, out.